Hello, and welcome to what is my 3-year ownership update on my BMW e46. Now, your eyes are not deceiving you. This is not my e46. I will explain why in just a moment, although you probably already gathered that from the thumbnail and the title of the video. First, before we get to the bad news, we're going to go through a little recap of the ownership history that I've had with this car. I bought it on June 10th, 2019. It was my first ever vehicle purchase that I made with my own money, my first independent purchase. I bought it off of a guy who bought it for commuting to his job at a BMW dealership in Orem, Utah. He bought it, used it for a couple months, fixed a couple things like I think control arms because that's a common e46 problem, and then he got a company car, so he didn't need it anymore. So he sold it on to me for, he asked $3,500. With my expert negotiation skills, I got him down to $2,800. So I picked it up that day. I was really excited. My first car, and it was such a monumental quality leap over the previous Generation 3 series, which I had also been driving at the time. Just everything in the interior is so much better built. All-wheel drive, wood trim, heated seats. I mean, it was just such a huge jump forward for me. Drove it a couple months. It began burning oil by spitting blue smoke out of the exhaust, which was sounding alarm bells, understandably. We replaced the valve stem seals because that's usually what that means with the blue smoke coming out of the exhaust, but that didn't fix it. We replaced I think it's the control vent valve, which is an oil-air mixture thing. We replaced that, which didn't fix it. So we began putting thicker oil in it. That was recommended by a BMW mechanic that my dad knows. And over time I had to put more oil in it, but it was fine. But I just had this knowledge in the back of my head that at one time I was going to have to rebuild the engine. Luckily, that never happened. It ended up just being the wrong control vent valve. We found out and replaced in my last video. I drove it over winter of 2019, got snow tires for it, found that it was a blast in the snow. Really good. Because of its manual transmission and rear biased all-wheel drive, it makes sliding around in the snow a huge laugh, and it's so easy, it's ridiculous. So I had it for 2020. I don't think all that much happened. I put some hideous black grills on the front of it, which I ended up hating. Took those back off and focused more on this red turd for that year, but the BMW was totally reliable for 2020. In 2021, I began having power issues. Like, it didn't seem like it would go very hard, and it just never seemed like it was running properly, and it was handling so poorly on the highway. It was all over the place. So in my last video, we replaced a bunch of vacuum lines. We replaced the CVV with the correct one, and after we'd replaced all those parts, a couple weeks went by, and then it started overheating at traffic lights. At the same time, this thing blew a head gasket, which kind of sucked, and it was before I had my Subaru, so I had no car to drive. But we found that pretty much the whole cooling system needed to be redone, but it was mostly the electric fan wasn't working. So we replaced all those things, which I didn't get on video. I drove it this past winter because, surprise, surprise, this thing was stuck in the garage where I couldn't drive it. And the BMW, again, totally blew me away. I was driving it one night through 2 feet of snow, past a stuck snow plow, rescued a bunch of friends, a bunch of people, and that car was just so amazingly impressive. So then after that, we got down to the business of replacing the rear springs and the rear shocks, which were completely destroyed. The shocks were all rusty and not shocking. Sorry, not absorbing shocks. And the springs, one of the springs actually was broken, like completely broken off, which I guess I'd had that issue for a while and didn't really notice anything, which was really crazy. So we replaced that, and then the alternator went out, so we replaced that too. But overall, for the 3 years I've had it, that thing has been so reliable. And I mean, any issues that it's had have been minor things. The valve stem replacement was only just a guesstimate on what the problem was with burning oil so much, but it ended up being a much easier fix. Still not an easy fix, but a much easier fix with the CVV. So overall, for 3 years and 20,000 miles, it has been an amazing ownership experience. And I still stand by my claim that an E46 all-wheel drive manual transmission is probably the best used car for a high school or college student looking to spend between $3,000 and $6,000. It's absolutely amazing. Now we get to the bad news. I forgot to mention I moved again. I'm actually renting out my parents' cabin right now up in Big Cottonwood Canyon in Utah, which is pretty cool. It's really beautiful and not too hot up here, which is great. So I was driving it up the canyon last night, and a deer who clearly didn't want to live in this world any longer decided to jump in front of my car with no time for me to react. And he died, obviously. The car took pretty much all of the impact from the deer, and as you can tell, I'm standing, I'm fine. I mean, it was only hitting a deer, but I am really, really ashamed of myself still. When a deer jumps out in front of your car with no chance to react, I know there's not really, I can't really blame myself for that, but I was going faster than I should have, so the damage was definitely more severe. So I'm really embarrassed. I'm really sad, and I mean, that car really deserves better than what it got last night. It really deserved better than that, and I feel absolutely heartbroken over it. In terms of whether or not it's salvageable or fixable, I don't know yet how much damage can a deer really do. I'm going to have to wait until I get my dad's more professional opinion and insurance involved on it. I think it's enough talking for one bit. Let's hop in the car here and head down the road. Hopefully you don't kill any more deer, and go check out the car. Okay, here we go. This is my first view of it in the daylight. There you have it, folks. That's what one deer who is lying as a lifeless corpse over there is capable of if you hit it hard enough. This is why when driving on a canyon road at night, don't be tempted to initial D it and go too fast, because one of those guys jumps out in front of your car. Depending on how fast you're going, you'll have pretty much no time to react. Especially when you're in a one-lane construction zone, so there's nowhere to swerve. You know, your brakes only slow you down, they don't stop you the instant you press them. And this is the result. So, let's just have a look here. Hood. The hood is obviously not repairable. Not in the lovely Chris Bangle shape that it once was. I think the headlight got the worst of it. That's completely destroyed. Although, it would appear the bulbs on the inside actually survived, which is pretty surprising. That's what a lens cover is for, I guess. The fender is obviously ruined too, and that's wedged up with the cladding on the inside. That's wedged up against the tire, so I can't really drive it. This trim doesn't really look broken, but it's off, so it probably is. Turn signal light is broken. If we look inside, it looks like this bar right here has been bent inwards by the hood caving in. This is already coming off before, don't worry about that. It doesn't look too bad in there. No holes punched in the radiator or anything. This grill is, both grills are completely destroyed. The hood is completely jammed shut and will not open. Also, I just noticed, I didn't think there was any blood, but I didn't see that. So I don't know if it's repairable or not. At the moment, I wouldn't be able to tell you. It has definitely seen better days though, hasn't it? It's a real shame. Damn, I'm so irritated at myself. It was faster than I should have been driving. Not a colossal amount of faster, but still enough to really give it a bloody nose. So supposedly there's a tow truck commissioned that will arrive at some point after giving me a phone call. And I guess we'll assess the damage at the house of the parents and we'll see if it's repairable or not. So I'll see you then. Here you go. There you go. Ah! Keep our fingers crossed. I don't want to see this car die here, especially not at the hands of a stupid deer. Fate of the entire car rests on whether that inner fender right there is repairable.